Coach Rowe,
Hey,
how
hey,
you doing?
doing good, man. How are you?
Man, I'm doing great, bro.
Yeah.
I'm so thankful for what's the saying? It was so nice we had to do it twice. So we running it back, baby. We running
Yeah.
it back by popular demand.
It's like it seems like it's been forever.
Yeah, yeah. I've been like going over, what we talked about. It was very impactful to me. So I want to just give you all the kudos for everything you brought on the part one of our podcast. Man, it was awesome, man. And we got a lot of great feedback. I'll get into that later.
Yeah.
But man, you really, really helped me and you really, really helped all the people that had a chance to listen to part one.
That was cool. I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm glad that I could provide provide some information that like really helped people. That's my purpose. I want to impact, I want to inspire, motivate. So that's what it's
Mhm.
all about.
Oh man, we share that same sentiment, bro.
Yeah.
I'm definitely in that same boat with you, bro. Um, so okay, so today let's let's go deep. That's how we do it, right? Let's just go
Okay.
deep.
Yeah, I'm all for going deep.
Okay, okay. So a lot of the feedback that I got was talking about how to overcome those limiting beliefs
Okay.
and like what would be like maybe one or two of your clients' top issues that you have helped them overcome in your sessions.
I would say that a common limiting belief that people have, like, and this is like a deep rooted
Mhm.
like limiting belief, would be I'm not worthy.
Mm.
Yeah. And so if you think about, man, I wish I could draw here, but um yeah, no, I'm not gonna try to figure out how to do it. I'm sure I could like bring up a notepad and stuff like that, but nah, like I'll just try to illustrate it with my
Okay.
air board.
Okay.
So at the core of it, you have like this not you. Um, Someone would have the limiting belief like I'm not worthy.
Mhm.
And so from there, like there's like other things that's other beliefs that span off of that as well. Right. So if I'm
Mhm.
not worthy, you could have a span that says I'm not loved, I can't be successful, like all these things.
Mhm.
But there's like one root belief that controls all these other beliefs, right?
Mhm.
So when someone comes to me and they say, "Hey, man, I'm having a hard time getting my first deal, or having a hard time moving my business forward," my goal is to kind of see past the, you know, I can't make money or I don't have money, and get to I'm not worthy. Because
Mhm.
what happens is if someone has like a, I'm not worthy, then they start to self sabotage.
Mhm.
And last week when we talked about filters,
Mhm.
they'll start to filter everything through that belief.
Mhm.
And so they'll not see opportunities. They won't take action on opportunities. And if they do take action on opportunities, then they'll find a way unconsciously to sabotage it.
Mm. Wow,
Yeah.
wow. So okay. And you can use me as an example, bro. I don't mind. Because
Okay.
I know where I come from. I know the
Okay.
issues that I dealt with. I know who I am now as a person and as a follower of Christ,
Okay.
and I'm good.
Okay.
I'm good. Um, Self-sabotage. Okay. So tell me a little bit more about that and that vicious cycle that we go through. And we do how they say we do two steps forward, but then we take five steps back because we're self-sabotaging ourselves. So how do we
Right.
overcome that, or how do we become aware of it so that we can address it?
Okay. And let me ask you this question. So have you
Yep.
identified a time in your past where you said, "Yep, I self-sabotage that." Like there's always a saying, like the kid, that takes the stick and puts it in his own back wheel,
Mm,
right?
okay.
And
Okay.
and then flips over. So can you
Hmm.
identify a time where you took you stuck the stick in your back wheel?
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. You want me to give you a time
Yeah,
right
like
now?
yeah, just like a brief. You said, hey, you can use me if you want. I said, all right, that's great. Let's
Okay.
go.
All right, let's go then. So then, okay, let's see. I would say probably let's stick to work. So I would say that there were moments when I have self-sabotaged myself.
Hmm.
Probably going back to what you first said about not thinking that I'm worthy. Um, and then I would probably do something to uh, confirm that bias that maybe I'm not worthy,
Right,
and then limit myself to either a chance at a promotion or making a new connection or taking on a new task at work or something like that.
right. And I'm glad you said that. So there was a
Hmm.
belief that I'm not worthy. And that was like kind of deep down,
Hmm.
and it was manifesting in your career.
Hmm.
And so when you would go up for promotions and stuff like that, you would find some way to sabotage it. And this is all happening
Hmm.
unconsciously too. A lot of times we don't even know that we're doing it because 80 to 90% of what we do every day is unconscious. Like right
Okay.
now, through this whole conversation, you've been breathing, right? You haven't
Yep.
been telling your lungs, exchange air. Your
Hmm.
heart's been beating, right? You haven't
Hmm.
been consciously telling it, okay, heart beat, beat, right? So so the same way, there's things there our thoughts are automatic. We have millions of thoughts throughout the day, millions,
Hmm.
but we're not
Hmm.
consciously aware of them.
Hmm.
And so when we're in those situations, those thoughts will come up. I'm not worthy, I'm not loved, I'm not, like I'm wanted, I'm like not like all these different things. Some people, I'm great, I'm wonderful. It's not just negative, it's also positive as well.
Hmm. Hmm.
And so in those situations, if those things are unconscious and then the opportunity comes up to go up for a promotion and stuff like that,
Hmm.
the mind will try to protect us. It'll perceive that opportunity as a threat
Hmm.
because it's going to say, well, if I get the job, if I get the promotion
Hmm.
and I'm not worthy of it, then what?
Hmm.
People are going to find out. They're going to find out that I'm a fraud. They're going to find out that I've just been faking it this whole time. They're going to whatever, like you said, you go out and find information to support that, and that's what we do.
Hmm.
And so we can't like say we can't have this root belief and then not have any supporting data for it, because then that would
Hmm.
mean that the belief doesn't need to exist,
True.
right? And so if we can't find it, then we go out and create it.
Hmm.
But
Wow.
the underlying purpose behind it is the unconscious mind is trying to protect us because it does
Hmm.
perceive. And it's really kind of like screwy. And last week when I left off, I was saying that our unconscious mind is like our 800-pound gorilla.
Hmm.
And so what we want to do is we want to get that 800-pound gorilla on our side so that it's working for us versus against us. Have
Hmm.
you ever heard of the analogy of like 800-pound gorilla?
Not in terms of the subconscious,
Yeah.
but like in terms of business or like having an issue, in the room or something like that. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. Hmm.
What do you give an 800-pound gorilla?
What do you give it?
Hmm.
Like to feed it?
Sure. Yeah. If it's hungry, like what do you give it? And this is really in general, but like what do you give an 800-pound gorilla?
I'll probably say some type of vegetation or bananas or something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So you give it whatever it wants.
Oh, because it's so big.
Right? Like
Right. Okay.
you're
Okay.
not going to withhold anything from an 800-pound gorilla. And
That's
so,
true. That's true.
and if
Right.
you think about our unconscious mind as an 800-pound gorilla, like what I was saying last week, is there's so
Hmm.
many people that try to withhold things from their 800-pound gorilla, and that's through
Hmm.
willpower. I'm going to will myself to go to the
Hmm.
gym. I'm going to will myself to do this. I'm going to
Hmm.
will myself to do that. But that only lasts
Hmm.
for so long because the unconscious mind kicks in, and
Hmm.
that those patterns, right? Those narratives, those stories that we
Hmm.
tell ourselves, they kick in, and they go, whoa, 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 wait a minute.
Hmm.
Like remember that belief about not feeling worthy? Like, how are you going to
Mm-hmm.
go and start that business? How are you going to go get your first deal when you're not worthy of
Mm-hmm.
it?
Mm.
Right.
Right.
So
Mm-hmm.
let's go ahead and let's go find something. Oh, I don't have enough money. That's what it is. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
To
Yeah.
support it.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
there's no deals out there. Oh, the interest rates are high. So people aren't, I can't go buy because interest rates are high. Right.
Mm-hmm.
We'll find all these different things to confirm the narrative that we're telling ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Because like if we didn't, then that means
Mm-hmm.
that we would have to actually go buy the house. We would actually have
Right.
to go
We would have to take that
start
action.
to do, and then it's like, oh crap, like that
Right.
opens up
Right.
a
Right.
whole other like host of issues. Like, man, I may actually be successful at this. Like, heaven forbid.
Mm. And then what? Like what excuse will I have then?
Yeah, exactly.
I'll make a move. Right, right, right. Now, would intentions fall into the same category as trying to use willpower? Is that like similar, like having a good intention, like to
Yeah,
do something?
yeah. I've been well intentioned to do a lot of things that I never did. Right,
Mhm.
like I take for instance, like health journey, like eating healthy. Yeah, I have good intentions
Mhm.
to do it, but I love cake. I love sweets. I love eating things that, aren't so healthy for me. Well intentioned,
Right, right.
but
Yeah.
it's a comfort thing. There's certain foods that
Mhm.
trigger a certain emotion within me. And so
Mhm.
when I want to feel that
Mhm.
emotion, I eat that food.
Mhm.
And again, it's all unconscious.
Mhm.
I'm not saying I want to feel comforted, so I'm going to go eat this food, right?
Mhm.
It's like
Mhm.
there's a physiological shift in our bodies where there's a yearning and a longing for
Mhm.
a particular emotion or particular physiological state, I'll say,
Mhm.
and it knows how to fulfill that because it says, I remember when he ate this food or he did this thing or he went to or he went to this event or hung out with this person, it made him feel a certain way.
Mm.
He got that hit. He got, whether
Mhm.
it's dopamine or like
Mhm.
whatever hit the person's looking for.
Mhm.
Our brains will associate these
Mhm.
things with these physiological states
Mhm.
called anchoring.
Mhm.
And so one of the really cool things about, it's one of the things I realized is, you ever go to a bar and you'll see all the different beer signs all over the place.
Okay.
Pabst beer, Budweiser, like all this stuff, right?
Mhm.
It even happens in
Mhm.
commercials, and this is
Okay.
how this is how commercials work. So when you see something like that, for instance, like in the bar, typically it's
Mhm.
like people having a good time,
Mhm.
right? So everyone is like in a happy,
Mood.
feel good mood and stuff like that,
Mhm.
and unconsciously they're taking in all this information. They see
Mhm.
Budweiser, they see this, they see that, they see this, they see that, right? So now that's anchoring these things into how they feel.
Mhm.
So what happens the next time that they want to feel that way? There's
Put
this
themselves in that
association with
situation.
with
Mhm.
with beer, with Budweiser and Pabst and all that stuff, right? Think
Mhm.
about like commercials.
Mhm.
So like the Super Bowl commercials, like they're hilarious, right? And
Mhm.
so they make you laugh, and they're
Mhm.
funny and stuff like that. And so people make the association with the way that the commercial made them feel. And so the
Mhm.
next time that they want to like they go, oh, like like I need car insurance. Oh, I'm gonna go with like Geico. This is not a plug for Geico, but
Mhm.
it's
Mhm.
like that's how marketers use our emotions to market to us.
Anchor.
They
Mm.
anchor, yeah.
Okay. Okay. Wow, man. Yeah. I mean, I've thought about that. I might have even like spent some time doing some research about it. I didn't go too far with it, but yeah, yeah, you're right. Like certain colors, certain situations, um, just to, like you said, get you to connect, like tap into your emotions, because when they anchor your emotions,
Yeah,
they got you.
yeah,
They got you.
yeah. Like
Mhm.
emotions are um one of the biggest motivators for humans.
Mhm.
Like,
Mhm.
particularly like
Mhm.
fear. Like fear is like one of the biggest motivating fear or emotions that we have.
Mhm. True, true, true.
So,
So with the going back to the 800-pound gorilla,
mhm.
how do we work with that gorilla as opposed to fighting against it or trying to, have willpower to resist it?
Yeah. And this is where we get into like personal development. And so the first step
Okay.
is awareness, like being aware
Mm.
that there's the understanding about like the conscious mind, the unconscious mind. And so just really
Mhm,
briefly, so your
mhm.
your brain, it can be thought of as being divided into two different functions. And so you have your
Okay.
conscious mind, you have your unconscious mind. So the conscious mind is
Mhm,
responsible for all the logical thinking. It's a very kind of short term. And so it takes
okay.
information and it makes meaning and logic and all that stuff out of stuff. Your
Mhm.
unconscious mind is more like a 5-year old. And so
Mm,
earlier when I was saying, well, not you, right? It's because we
mhm,
have to be conscious of when, I'm conscious of when I'm talking to people. If I'm saying
mhm,
something about someone else's
mhm.
unconscious mind can think I'm talking about them because it doesn't know.
True.
So if I sat here
Right.
and I talked about like one of my clients, your unconscious mind go,
Mhm,
oh, he's talking about me.
mhm,
And so the unconscious mind is responsible for all the automated processes, all the automated processes in your body, your heart rate, your
mhm,
breathing, your all the internal functions, in addition to your memories.
mhm,
That's where your values, your beliefs, your all your experiences are all stored there. And
mhm.
so that would be your 800-pound gorilla. And so
Okay.
what you want to do is you want to bridge between the conscious and the unconscious. And so the first step is like one, understanding that there needs to be a bridge between your conscious and unconscious. And so when
Okay.
you're in a situation and you're like, man, like I can consciously be aware that this is not a situation that I want to be in. For instance, I can give you an example.
Okay.
So I'm dealing with a business transaction where I feel like I'm being wronged.
Okay.
And so I got back some information and immediately I was upset.
Mhm,
And and what I try not to do is just kind of like just fire off and like respond and stuff like that, because I know that
mhm,
I'm in what's called an unresourceful state.
mm. Okay.
And that's usually when bad things happen, is when people are in unresourceful states. Like if I ask you, like, have you ever made a bad decision in a resourceful state, meaning that there wasn't fear, there wasn't anger, there wasn't any like negative emotion present. You were happy, you were very attentive, right? You usually make really good decisions in those states.
Good decisions and
If
yeah.
we went through and looked
Yeah.
at the bad decisions that you made, they're likely in an
Mhm,
unresourceful state,
mhm.
right?
Yeah.
And so that's a
Yeah.
huge thing to like for people to take in, is that if you ever feel like you're in an unresourceful state, don't make any decisions. Like
Okay.
allow the moment to pass, give yourself time
Mhm,
so that you can
mhm,
then get into a resourceful state, meaning that you're able to collect data, you're able to seek to understand, you're able to
mhm,
check in with yourself, like all these things that puts you in a resourceful state.
mhm,
It may not change anything about the situation, but at least you gave yourself time to like move forward resourcefully.
mhm,
So I was in this unresourceful state, and I mean, man, like how does the mindset coach like get here? like, how does this happen? Right? Like
right, right, right.
I'm supposed to be able to control my emotion and have this high
Mhm,
emotional intelligence, and I'm just
mhm,
upset.
mhm.
And I start flying off and stuff like that. And I could feel the
To the
stress in my
buildup,
body. I
right?
could feel the
Yeah, yeah.
physiological shift. I'm like, I'm upset. And
Mhm.
I'm like, all right, I need to go take a walk. Like
Okay.
I need to get out and I need to go walk. Kind of another tidbit is, so cortisol is our stress hormone.
Yeah.
And if you ever see people that have they have the beer belly,
Mhm.
it's like called the stress belly. and because that's where
Okay.
cortisol gets stored. And so one of the big things
Mm,
about
okay.
getting rid of that and reducing cortisol is movement. And so what happens is people they get in stressful states and then they just sit around.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
I've been
yeah,
trying to tell
yeah.
myself, like, whenever I get like stressed, I got to get up and move. I got to go move. I got to go do something because I'm trying to get rid of my belly, my belly.
Hmm.
So I get up, I go a walk, and as I'm walking, I'm just like I'm praying. I'm just like, what should I do? Like, should I just like, like from a Christian perspective, it's like, if someone smacks you on the cheek, then you turn your cheek. Like, it's like you know what I mean? It's like it's a challenge, because we're
Yeah.
so used to in business and in life fighting back. And so when you're faced with an opportunity where you're like, you really remove yourself as like judge and executioner,
Hmm.
and you just like really surrender it and you give it up.
Hmm.
That's a hard transition. I don't know. For me it is. It's like,
Yeah,
because I'm
it
like,
is.
no, I want to fight. Like, let's
Right.
go. Right.
Right. Right.
Um, so I was able to go from this very unresourceful state
Hmm.
to a more resourceful state because I removed myself from my where I was anchored. I was sitting at my desk anchored into that emotion.
Hmm.
And so I asked myself, why do I feel this way?
Hmm.
Why am I having this response?
Hmm.
And so my unconscious mind just started to serve things up for me. It was says, you don't like to be taken advantage of.
Right. Right.
And
Mm.
integrity is really important to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so people will, like, our emotions will reflect back to us what our boundaries are,
Mm.
right?
Mm.
It'll let
Right.
you know very quickly. If you're feeling anger, then that means that someone did something to you and you're preparing yourself to either fight or run,
Hmm. Hmm.
right? You're sad, like every emotion can be tied to some value
Hmm.
that's very like deep rooted.
Right. Right. Right.
And so
Hmm.
for me in business, integrity is like very important. Well, in life, like integrity is really
Hmm.
important. And so I felt
Hmm.
like this person was crossing that boundary.
Right.
And that's why I was like so upset. It was a
Hmm.
combination of being upset and disappointed at the same time.
Hmm. Hmm.
And so that's a firsthand experience of how I was able to acknowledge that I was in an unresourceful state,
Hmm.
allow myself to like coach myself and say, okay, I'm visibly upset. Why am I upset? Oh, I'm upset
Hmm.
because this thing is happening, because
Hmm.
this value is being crossed, and this is very
Right. Right.
important to me. And then from there, it's like, so what is the meaning of it? Like, what meaning am I making of this? And it's like,
Okay.
well, if you allow people to walk all over you, then you're weak. That was like one of the biggest things. And
Hmm.
I don't want people to think I'm weak. And so
Hmm.
that's really what was angering me, is that I felt like I needed to fight back because I didn't want to feel
Hmm.
like I was weak.
Hmm.
And
Gotcha.
then from there, it's about, okay, that's not true, right?
Hmm.
Even
Hmm.
if I completely just walk away from the situation, it doesn't mean that I'm weak.
Hmm.
It just means that I'm choosing to turn a cheek,
Hmm.
right? And so I'm
Hmm.
changing the meaning that I'm making of that event. The event is the event. It happened.
Hmm.
I can't do anything about the event happening.
Hmm.
What I can change is the meaning that I placed on the event. And
Hmm.
I have control of that, not the other person, not the person down the street,
Hmm.
me and me only.
Hmm.
I can choose to see the situation this way, or I
Hmm.
can choose to see the situation this way.
Hmm. Man, that's deep. I like that. I
Yeah.
like that. And I totally agree. I mean, of course, you're the professional. I'm just going by life experience, and what you just said just rings true. For me in my life, my career, everything. I've been in rooms where like I'm the only African American,
Yep.
and sometimes other people um, can overlook you, or I can feel like I feel small, or I feel like I'm not the smartest, smart or whatever. Because people sometimes they want to make a point about something
Yeah.
that they think that they have an advantage or they think that they're really good at, and they kind of want to lord it over you. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And wherever I go, I don't want to speak for you, but we've had this conversation before. But wherever I go, I know that I'm not only just representing me, I'm representing my family's name.
Yeah.
I'm representing, Christ. I'm representing people in my culture
Yeah.
because I want to make sure that not only are we in the room, but I want to make sure that we're seated at the table.
Yeah.
And I also want to make sure that our words are heard.
Yeah.
And I want to help take action so that everybody can benefit from whatever the decision or the task or whatever is going on, you know what I
Yeah.
mean, in the room.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
So, you know, so
Yeah.
man,
I was
that's
very,
very helpful.
very similar situation. I was an engineer, software engineer for many years. And when I
Hmm.
started, I didn't have a degree. I didn't have any
Hmm.
formal training. I was self-taught.
Hmm.
And so I
hmm
was I was in jobs where I was the youngest and I was the only black person there. And
hmm
so, and I
hmm
didn't know about like angry black man syndrome and all that stuff. I was just like, I was a fighter, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I was just like ready
yeah,
to
yeah,
go. And I
yeah.
would go into meetings and I would like, I was that guy, right? I had something to prove
Mhm,
because
mhm,
there was this underlying belief that I didn't have any value. And so
mhm,
I was like, no, I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna show
mhm,
you. I'm gonna show you. And I just went in
mhm,
there and I would just like and I duked it out. And that's how,
mhm.
ironically, how I was able to like move up in my career.
Okay,
But it burns you out because you
right.
get
I was gonna say, what
to
was
a
the
certain point.
casualty?
Yeah, I was
Yeah,
I was the
yeah,
casualty,
yeah,
and
yeah.
so at some point you don't realize it until it's kind of like late down the road and you go, man, like this is not sustainable.
No,
But
no.
most of my career, most of my life has been about like trying to overcome that limiting belief.
Yes, 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 yes. Same here. Yep. And we've had talks, so yeah, yo,
Yeah,
bro. I know.
yeah,
Yes. Overcoming all the obstacles, man, that you put in front of yourself, your parents put on you, your siblings, if you have any, you know what I mean, your uncles, your aunts, your grannies, your grandpa, um, the kids in the neighborhood, the teachers at the school, the guidance counselor that tells you, oh, nah, you shouldn't do that. You should go work in the factory, you know what I mean? Or you should go to the military. Like,
yeah,
what? Like,
yeah,
you didn't tell that dude that. Like, you gotta tell me that. You know what I mean?
yeah,
It's like all these obstacles is crazy. So yeah.
yeah.
Oh man. Um,
And I like how so you, I mean, you push through that, and a lot of people, they're susceptible to other people's vision of what this person can do. Like
right.
I was fortunate to be hard-headed enough that
Mhm,
I was going to do my own thing anyway, right?
mhm,
I was never really susceptible to someone saying, "Oh, you should like do this or you should do this," right? I was always like, "Nah, I think I'm gonna do my own thing," right? I was just enough hard-headedness.
right.
And
Right.
but it took me, my career to this. I
Mhm,
I lovingly say that, I'm a jack of all trades, because like there was a time
mm,
when I went to school for this, and then I went to school for this, and I went to school for
mhm,
this, and I went to school for this, and I went to school for that,
mhm,
and
mhm,
um, I eventually kind of like settled into my passion. But man, it was a
mhm,
journey, to get there.
mhm, mhm. Wow, that's awesome. Well, okay. So you made me think of two things, and I'm trying to figure out which direction I want to go in.
Your
So
unconscious mind
so
knows.
me, yeah, so okay. So it already picked for me. So growing up, growing up, I was taught to always obey authority, right? And I learned that from my mom. So uh and if you didn't obey authority, you got beat up.
Okay.
You know what I mean? By the you know the ladies on the street, or when you got home, your parents got you. So this was back in the 70s, everybody.
Yeah,
So yeah, don't frown, because you guys are too soft on your kids nowadays.
man.
But so taking that, what I learned into the work environment, it took me a long time to kind of combat that frame of thought,
Yeah.
right? Because built into that thought about always obeying authority
Hmm.
is that authority is always right.
Hmm.
And that's not necessarily the case. You know what I mean? Just because you have a position or a title doesn't mean that everything you say or everything that you do is accurate. And so now that I'm on the other side of 50, and I went through a lot of therapy too. So, this I'm gonna tell you one of my coping things that I do. But anyway, now that I'm on the other side of 50, I find that I think about my mortality and I think about my legacy more often now. So, um, I'm the type of person where I don't want to do something for the sake of doing it. I want to know what's the meaning behind it. What's the, like, am I going to be successful? Is the project going to be successful? Is the client going to be happy? Because I'm keeping it in terms of work right now.
Hmm.
But even in my home life, like the same thing. I want everybody to win, and that doesn't happen all the time. You know, People are not going to want to put forth the effort. People have a different thought pattern, and they want to march their own drummer. That's cool. Everybody can do that. So yeah. So on the other side of 50, I'm really, really like thinking about, like, that doesn't make sense to me. Like, why are we doing that?
Yeah.
You know? So you say something nicely in a way that's in a form of respect, because in the streets, disrespect is a big thing.
Hmm.
So you try not to disrespect people, but you just try to, well, I try to say, hey, listen, there's a different way that we can do this, or there's a different way that we can think about something. Let's try and talk it out. Let's brainstorm.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And I'm big on that.
Yeah. Values are so values are what motivates us in life. And it turns out that over our lifespan, our values change.
Mm-hmm.
So, like you said, like you're kind of like seeing the world differently over 50.
Yeah.
So likely that there's a lot of your values now that you have that you didn't have, or they shifted from the time when you were 40.
Mm-hmm.
And those are probably different than from when you were 30,
Mm-hmm.
20, 10, like so on and so forth, right? So what happens is through the evolution of values. So there's these different levels that we go through.
Mm-hmm.
One kind of starts off as like a really primal, that's kind of back in the caveman days, where it's all about just like complete survival.
Mm-hmm.
And so everything that we do is all from the value system of, man, I gotta like go out, I gotta hunt, I gotta get food, and I gotta
Mm-hmm.
eat, I gotta find shelter, and I gotta find heat and warmth, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
then and then there's the
And
next level.
relationship.
Yeah, so then the next level up is the
Oh, okay. Okay.
relationship. It's
Okay.
family,
Okay.
community, right?
Mm-hmm.
Being around,
Mm-hmm.
and so what happens is the first level we're sacrificing for ourselves. It's all about us.
Okay.
The next level
Mm-hmm.
is we're sacrificing for the family. So then you became
Mm-hmm.
became a husband, you became a father,
Mm-hmm.
and so now
Mm-hmm.
it's like it wasn't about Trevor going out and doing his own thing. It was
Mm-hmm.
about Trevor going out and sacrificing for the family, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then that goes along and stuff
Right.
like that. And there's a lot of like a strong, like, man, that's who I am. I'm a dad, I'm a husband, all that
Mm-hmm.
stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next level up is what's like self-actualization, like who, or self-identity, like who am I?
Mm-hmm.
Like who is Trevor?
Mm-hmm.
And this happens a lot in teenagers. So when
Okay.
you how old are your kids?
30, 28, 23, and 19.
Okay. So you'll know this perfectly. So
Mhm.
they when they were younger, right, they were like, oh, the family and mama and daddy, and like we just
Mhm.
like it's like right, we're all for the tribe.
Yeah.
Everyone was for the tribe.
Yeah.
And then they were like, leave me alone,
Right. Don't come in my room.
right?
Right.
Because they started transitioning. Like what was important to them when they were like 9, it was different when they were 13.
Yeah.
Because then
Yeah.
they started to self-express,
Mm-hmm.
right? And
Mm-hmm.
then once they had like started to self-express, they were like, all right, I know who I am. Like I figured out how to survive. I
Mm-hmm.
figured out how to do the whole family thing.
Mm-hmm.
I figured out how to express myself.
Mm-hmm.
Now let me go out and join the job
Mm-hmm.
force. So
Mm-hmm.
maybe they get a job at McDonald's or they get a job at so and so. But up until then, they were like probably in church, so they kind of learned some rules and structure there.
Mm-hmm.
They were in the family, so there were some rules and structure and values that were passed down from the parents, passed down
Mm-hmm.
from other family members.
Mm-hmm.
And so now they're out in the job force, and the job force is all about follow the rules,
Yeah.
right? You can't just show up to work whenever you want. You got to be here at this time. We got a list of all your duties. This is what you do when you go apply for the job. You have a PD, right, that tells you
Mm-hmm.
what this
Mm-hmm.
position does.
Yep.
Boom, 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 right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's all about the rules. It's all about sacrificing for the system. If the system breaks
Mm-hmm.
down, then the whole world comes to an end. Like that's kind of the mindset,
Mm-hmm.
right? So
Yep.
following the
Yep.
rules is like super important. You always hear about like Karens and like like
Mm-hmm.
people that are like the kid that like wrote the names on the chalkboard and stuff. Like it's all about the rules in the system. And then what happens is you're working in the system for a while and you're like, man, I am making these people way too much money. Like this is crazy. Like why am I like
Right.
I've done
Right.
everything that I'm supposed to do. I follow the rules. I
Mm-hmm.
came in, I worked, I bust my tail and I'm making them money.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna go do my own thing.
Mm-hmm.
So people then transition and they go start a business,
Mm-hmm.
right? And and then they're like, all right, like they're trying to figure out the whole entrepreneur thing now,
Mm-hmm.
right? And they're letting go of that 9 to 5 mentality,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then so they do that for a while and they go, man, this is really cool. Like, they start making good money. And then they
Mm-hmm.
start to like think about group causes and so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
Most people are in a transition between that 4 and 5, between that 9 to 5 mentality and the entrepreneur mentality,
Right. Right.
right? And so
Right.
what happens with people that haven't resolved all the things, they haven't learned everything that they're supposed to learn in that level 4,
Mm-hmm.
is they go and they try to start a business. And they don't have the complexity of thinking to start a business because they're still thinking like an employee.
Mm-hmm.
And the
Right.
complexity of thinking to run and start and run a business is completely different than it is to
Mm-hmm.
show up and clock in from 9 to 5.
Right.
And so that transition is like this really like, oh crap. Like our last call, I was saying, yeah, like I did
Mm-hmm.
it during COVID, during a pandemic,
COVID. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so the
Mm-hmm.
complexity of thinking to go from working 9 to 5
Mm-hmm.
to, oh, like there's no one there to tell me that I gotta
Mm-hmm.
work whenever I want. The
Mm-hmm.
difference is if I don't work and I don't produce, then I don't get paid, and then I don't eat,
Yes. Yes.
and like,
Right.
and
Right.
then so it takes a minute where you go, oh, wait a minute, like I'm responsible.
Mm-hmm.
There's no boss that's like hovering over me, making sure that I'm like clocking in and all that stuff. Like I'm it.
Mm-hmm.
Wait a minute, I don't just work from 9 to 5. Now I work from like 6 to 3 in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
It's a completely different shift.
Mm. True. True.
And that's all based off of the evolution of the values that person went through.
Okay.
And as they go from level to level to level to level, they're developing new values and they're letting go of old values.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're forever evolving as you continue to grow. So when
Mm,
you look at someone like a Elon Musk or Bill
mhm,
Gates, or right, Bill Gates is a really good example, right? Because he's kind of like transitioned so far that he's like, all right, you guys can take the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, or
mhm.
you can take Microsoft. I want to go and be a philanthropist.
Right,
I'm going
right,
to take my billions of dollars and I want to
mhm,
go make the world better.
right.
I can tell you that where I'm at in my level,
Mhm,
like I'm not at the philanthropist like level. Like, I don't have the
right.
complexity of thinking
Mhm,
to think the way that he does,
mhm,
right?
mhm.
But that's kind of like the if you look at the continuum, that's kind of like that's where I'm at on the scale,
Okay.
and I'm working towards getting there. And just like you're working to get there, you can probably identify where you're at on the scale just as much as everyone else watching. They can say, "Oh, like I think I'm right here. I'm right here." The
Mhm.
interesting thing about it's kind of like Zelda. I'm sure you probably remember Zelda.
Oh, that game? Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Online game? Yeah.
yeah. Look, boom, see, anchor. He's like, yeah, I remember
Nice.
Zelda. So
Mhm,
like every time you pass one level, right,
mhm.
you unlock the next level.
Right.
And so it's the same thing here. Is you're kind of cleaning up like two, right?
Mhm,
And then you step into three, and
mhm,
then you clean up three. You learn everything you're supposed to, like you complete that level, and then you move to
mhm,
four, and you complete that
mhm.
level, and then you move to five, so on and so forth, right? What happens
Right.
is sometimes people they jump levels, or they go into a
Mm,
level without having fully completed the previous level. And you'll
mhm,
see this a lot when someone has they haven't fully resolved like energy in like the two, right? They're still
mhm,
dealing with the relationship with their parents or siblings and stuff like that, and then they go
mhm.
into the four, into the system, and now they're like, if you have you ever heard someone say, oh, like, my work family,
Right. Yep.
right?
Yep.
Or like,
Mhm,
my coworkers are like my family,
mhm.
right? They
Yep.
now associate the people that they work with as their
Mhm,
family. Like they're
mhm,
working out their familial stuff in on
mhm,
the job,
mhm.
which is
Because you
why it's
spend
like,
so much time with people.
huh?
Because you spend so much time with these people,
Yeah.
you know?
And that's why you'll see there's a parallel between like the family and then being at work.
Mhm,
Like people argue, people bicker, people
mm.
like just as much as they do in their job,
Yeah.
is because unconsciously they're trying to resolve, they're projecting whatever, like they'll find someone and say, oh man, you're just like my brother.
Right. Well, my mama, my
And then
daddy, or something.
yeah,
Right.
mom, dad, like a lot of supervisors will show up as a mom or a dad.
Mhm,
And then so they'll try to resolve whatever's unresolved with them with their manager.
mhm.
And then you get a lot of this.
Right. Button
Because they
heads.
may have some three energy, they may want to self express, and they're like, hey man, like I just want to be free. I was like super self expressive. I was a horrible employee.
I I wasn't as expressive. I was more of a stuffer and then explode.
There you go. Yes,
That was me. Yeah, yeah.
yes,
Mhm.
yes,
Yeah.
I know that
You know that
pattern.
person. Yeah, yeah.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah. But
It feels so much better when you're like able to like communicate though, right? When you're able to express
oh
yourself
yeah.
in a healthy
Yeah.
manner.
Cause I know it's like you don't want the beast to come out. You don't want Brooklyn to come out.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying? You don't want
yeah,
it to come out. So it's like that 800-pound gorilla. Okay, calm down. It's okay. It's all right. Well, let's work this out.
yeah, yeah.
Work it out.
Yeah,
Talk it through.
I definitely had that pattern. Um,
Yeah.
I would say more relatively recent. I called them periods. I would have a man period.
Okay.
No,
Okay.
an emotional period where I would just like
Yeah.
I'd stuff it down, stuff it down, stuff it down, and I'm like, no, it's cool. A very
Mhm.
peaceful person until
Yep. Yep. Yep.
And it all came out.
Hmm.
Remember June
Yeah.
1st when you blah blah blah. Like,
Oh yeah. 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 Man, we so similar.
super unhealthy, but I'm aware of it, right?
Yeah.
So I became aware of
Right.
it, and I was like, all right, this is
Right.
not how I want to show up. So let me change that.
Right. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh wow. Um, okay. So and one of the coping styles that I learned through therapy to connect to this point that you just made. So instead of stuffing it and then exploding, it's like, okay, I start to ask myself questions, or is that really what happened? Or like, is it really worth it? You know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
do I need to say something? Like in the big scheme of life, do I have to say something about, hey, the garbage is full? Like it's been like that for 3 days. I know you see it. Like, are you waiting for me to dump it? It's like, you know what I mean? Like
Right,
in the big scheme of things, that
right.
worth blowing up at somebody, because you have like I have some other unresolved issue underlying. And I just learned to be like, yeah, it's not worth it. Just take out the
Yeah, you don't
garbage or
you don't like garbage
challenge,
day.
challenge. Right.
What's wrong with that?
Metaphorically speaking.
Well, I, I am making a note.
Yes, yes, yes. I see you writing over
Yeah,
there.
I am making a note. What would happen? Like, what would happen if you said, "Hey, like, do you see the trash building up? Do you expect me to take it out?"
What would happen?
Mhm.
Uh, what usually would happen is that the person would take it out.
Okay,
Or usually what happens is, because I'm dealing with younger people, it's I was going to do that. Like they always put everything off
right,
until a later time. But then how I grew up was like when your parents asked you to do something, you did it right then and there.
right.
But different generation now, right?
And so,
So
what does it mean? What does it mean? What's the meaning that you make when you ask them to take the trash out and they say, "Oh, I was just getting ready to do that," and they didn't do it immediately when you told them to, when like you would have if you was at their age.
I think about uh again, following authority or obeying authority, like the way I was raised. I think about
And
work ethic,
what does it mean about you? What's the meaning that you make about you?
that those values of obeying authority, I hold it at a very high level. You know what I mean? Obedience is something that I hold at a high level.
They
You
don't
know,
what?
you know what I mean?
They don't what?
They don't, they don't listen. Um, they don't obey. You know what I mean? They're,
And
they can be lazy
how does that relate to your authority?
and undermine. To me, I would say it would undermine my authority,
Okay. So
which
you
would challenge
feel
that belief.
so you
I
feel what?
feel I would say then I would feel maybe let's say less than. That's the word that's coming to my mind, but I didn't want
Yeah.
to say it. I was fighting that 800-pound
Fighting
gorilla.
800-pound gorilla.
I was
Like,
I
nope,
was
you're
fighting.
gonna say
I
it.
don't want to say it. I didn't want to say that word.
That's that is a classic
Yeah.
example of how like the unconscious mind will like it'll serve something up to you and we'll go, no, I don't want to, because we don't want to
Yeah.
admit it.
Nope. I didn't want to say that word.
So say it again. You feel what?
Less than.
All from asking someone to take the trash out.
Right. Look at that story. Man,
Right? Like how else
good.
does it play out?
Um, but typically they'll do it, depending on who the person is.
Yeah.
They'll do it within a reasonable amount of time. So it's all person dependent, you know what I mean? But that's usually how it would play out. And then other times I won't say anything. I'll just take it out myself because I see it's full. Because it's just like you see something, like how they posted on the train, you see something, say something or something like that.
Hmm.
So it's like, okay, I see the trash is full, I'll take it out.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? I put a dish in a sink, I'll wash it. I won't let it linger there all night. You know what I mean? And then expect somebody else to do it. You know what I mean? So yeah. So sometimes I'll say something just because I'm like, you know what? I've taken the trash out the last 4 times. And I know the majority of the stuff in this garbage can is not from me. So I'm like, and I know there's other people in here that's putting stuff in here can see that it's full. You know what I mean? And that's the kind of like the dialogue that goes back and forth in my mind.
Mm.
Oh, he's writing. Yeah, see, he's right. He's writing. We gonna have y'all don't know like we do the podcast and then we have like the longest conversation after just breaking everything down and it's just like Coach Rowe is just he's just a beautiful spirit, a beautiful soul. You guys, if you guys have a chance to work with Coach Rowe, I would jump at that opportunity. This is an awesome brother. Any way that you can support him, trust me, you're gonna get it back. It's gonna come back to you so much more. You know what I mean? But go ahead. I saw you right, but go ahead.
It just happens so natural. Like I hear it and I'm like, oh,
Yeah,
that's very interesting. Tell me more about that.
I'm coming back to that.
And I can't hit you with it
You'll
right
be
away. I gotta let your unconscious mind like kind of like
yeah,
marinate a little bit. And then it's like,
yeah.
oh, hey, remember when you said this right here?
And I'll be like, nah, I said that.
Exactly. That's
And he's
how
like, I wrote
unconscious
it down.
works.
Yeah, you said it.
Um, so what I will share is what's coming up
Okay.
for me is so they can see that it's full.
Mhm,
They can see that the thing is full.
mhm.
And so my question is how does that relate to you feeling like overburdened?
Because where I'm at now, and I guess too from growing up, I always looked at the family unit as helping one another grow and um, be something. You know what I mean? Like it shouldn't be to me. My value system is it shouldn't be one person, bearing the weight of something, especially if there's like multiple people in the environment. It's like let's share that. Let's delegate it. You know what I mean? So um one thing that's very helpful is delegating responsibilities. You know what I mean? And another thing that's helpful is like setting expectations. So when we used to live in Brooklyn, we used to have like family meetings all the time. You know, on Saturdays, it could have been once a month. It could have been depending on what's going on. It could have been more frequent. Um, but I don't have them as nearly as much. They're rare now because everybody's grown. But when I feel like God has like downloaded something into my heart, I was like, hey, let's have a family meeting. And I've learned from the past meetings, straight up, I'll say, this is going to be like, just give me 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and I'll set a timer. And I'll like, my timer goes off, and I'm like, okay, I'm done. But if I'm flowing, I'll say like, okay, um, just give me a couple more minutes. I just got to get something, share something like he showed me, and I want to
Mhm.
share with you. But for the most part, I stick to my timer,
Yeah.
and those moments are like, golden. When I look over it, and when my dad passed away, and he passed away in 22, passed away in 22. like like the presence of God was just so thick and so heavy in that moment, you know. it was just a beautiful moment, you know, just sharing what I felt I needed to share.
Yeah. You feel like you have some big shoes to fill.
Yeah, yeah. My dad was actually the entrepreneur, um, and just being there with him throughout his journey, uh, and just seeing how he did what he did, and his work ethic was incredible, you know. So, you know, I feel like when my wife, when he passed away, and I told my wife I just want to make him proud, and she said, "Baby, you know, he's proud of you."
Yeah,
That was like a big, like I knew it mentally, but just to hear her say that was just confirmation. Like I know he's proud of me. Um, you know, where I'm at in my life, where my family is right now. So yeah, man, you going deep, bro. They're gonna be like, oh man, I didn't know that about Trevor.
yeah. That's
It's all
yeah.
good.
That's what it's all about, right?
I'm a book.
Let's talk.
I'm a book. Let's talk, because I'm about growing. I'm about building. I'm about filling capacity so I can gain more space, so I can fill that space. And I want to help other people do the same thing.
Absolutely,
So let's work together.
absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, I got let me share with you from our part one, two things that I wanted to share with you. Amber McCullum, a good friend of mine, and probably I think you know Amber too as well, right?
Uh,
Wonderful, wonderful lady.
yep, I've definitely heard of
She
you.
said, I really enjoyed part one. I love the meaning of Roshun's name, bringing it back to God as a partner and
Yeah,
the wisdom about limiting beliefs. She was like, it was a great listen. So you, like I said, you brought it. You know what I mean? Another person, Brandy Farmer. I don't know if you know her. She's another wonderful lady in our community. She said, really good interview. She says she shared the interview with a few of her friends who are struggling with limiting beliefs. I was also just talking to a friend over the weekend about about this kind of stuff. She had it stuck in her mind that she has to work WS. I don't know what WS is, but before she can buy, oh, wholesale. She has to
mhm,
wholesale before she can buy and hold. Now she's excited to throw wholesaling away and focus on buying and holding.
that's
And that
awesome.
came from you, bro.
That's
You know what I mean? So you're touching
that's
the
awesome,
community.
man. That's what's up. That's what's up right there.
That that's why we do what we do.
Right.
You know what I mean?
That's so cool.
So keep it up. Yeah,
That's so
yeah.
cool.
I definitely I wanted to share that with you. I wanted to do it live. I want to give you your flowers. You know what I mean?
I
Because
appreciate that.
you deserve it. You have definitely been a big help to me. And like I said, I know everybody that's listening. I'm your test dummy. So he's doing his thing on me. So
I wouldn't call
take
you a dummy.
notes and put no, not in that sense, but just you know, I'm your fill-in. I'm like the dude at the Oscars that sits in the seat for Meryl Streep, and then when she comes, he gets up. He's a was it filler,
Yeah,
something filler. I forgot.
seat filler, seat
Seat
filler.
filler.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, yeah. Nice, nice. Real estate. Let's talk real estate before we go. When did you jump into the world of real estate? And what made you want to get into the world of real estate?
I so my first introduction to real estate was way back. I was a teenager actually,
Okay.
and I don't know if
Wow.
you remember Carl Sheets,
Yeah. Yep.
right? So Carl Sheets.
Infomercial.
So this was back in the '90s, and so he would
Hmm.
have these commercials, and he would be like, "Make money by putting small little ads in the newspaper." Did you ever remember those?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right? There's gonna be a lot of people that
Yeah.
are like, "What is he talking about?" Right?
Uh, Google it,
Yeah,
chat GPT
I don't even know that like the archives will like even pull this up, but like so he would do these infomercials and he would say like, make money by putting like little small ads in the newspaper, yada yada. And I had no clue what it meant, right?
hmm
And so I was like, I would follow. And I think at some point I actually, I don't know how it happened. I don't know how I did this,
hmm hmm
but I ended up with um the cassettes.
Oh yeah, yeah. Uh-huh.
Remember the big like
The big,
right,
big,
had
yeah, the
all the cassettes
binder,
in it.
all the cassettes in it. Yep.
Yeah.
hmm
This how old we are, people. They're like
Yes.
cassettes, like what's a cassette?
hmm
So
hmm
I bought this thing and I went through and it was still foreign to me. I had like no clue like what any of it meant. And so I let some time pass and then I something just told me to like just to kind of pick it up. I was going to Borders a lot. That was like my
Okay.
Friday hangout place. I was like super nerd, right?
Okay.
And so on Fridays I would hang out at the bookstore and I was too cheap
hmm
to buy a book, so I would just go
Sit there
there
and
and
read it.
read them at the bookstore.
Yeah. 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 hmm
And so I picked up a book on flipping houses
hmm
and it was actually a book that I bought. Like so usually what happened is I'll read the book and if I like it then I buy it. If not, then I'm just
Okay.
like whatever, right?
hmm
And so I bought this book and I read all the way through it and it was about like how to basically flip houses, like how to wholesale.
hmm
And I was like, all right, I can do this. This is now in 2000,
Okay.
2004.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, I can do this.
hmm
And so I started driving for dollars and started doing that whole deal. And I
hmm
got to one house. I called a seller, and it was like, man, back then it was like this really oversized lot with a
hmm
house on it. It was $80,000. I remember yellow
hmm
house. They bulldozed it and they put these two really nice houses. They made six figures on this deal.
hmm hmm
And but I showed up at the same time that this other investor showed up,
hmm
and we're both outside, and I have no clue what I'm doing.
hmm
And I'm trying to look the part. I'm like,
Right. Right.
how's it going? Right. And I'm like,
hmm
I'm broke. I have no money. I don't
hmm
even know how to buy this house, but
hmm
I'm gonna figure out how to do it. Right.
hmm
So we're talking, and the guy who was gonna sell the house,
hmm
he stood us up. He didn't even answer the door. Like he was letting in the house, but he didn't even answer the door. Right.
hmm
But me and the guy, the investor, we exchanged numbers.
hmm
And he says, "Hey, if you find anything, let me know. I'd love to take a look at it." I said, "Oh
hmm
yeah, sure." But and then some months went by, and I was working at a place, and on my way
And this is in
there,
California,
this was in Washington. This is in
Washington. Okay. Okay.
yeah. And so there was this house that I would drive past all the time,
hmm
and it was vacant,
hmm
overgrown, all this stuff.
Okay. All the signs.
It was all the signs, right?
hmm
But I was like, I had never knocked on a door before in my life.
hmm
And so one day I got the courage. I was like, all right, I'm gonna go knock on this door
hmm
and I'm gonna talk to these people. And I
hmm
have no clue what I'm gonna say. Zero. Like I had no clue what I was
Right.
gonna say. So imagine me
Right.
like I pull up in the driveway, I walk up to the door. It's
hmm
like it's getting kind of dark,
hmm
and I'm knocking on the door and I'm praying that no one answers the door.
Nobody come.
Like, please
Right.
don't answer the door. Like, please don't answer the door. And I knock,
Right.
and no one answers the door. Like my prayers were answered.
hmm
Could be seen as a self sabotage, right? This is like how many people out
I
there
was thinking it. I
like
was thinking
please
that.
don't
Yeah.
answer the door. Please don't answer the door, right? Because then you can say, well, at least I tried,
hmm
but they didn't answer.
hmm
And so I was like, all right, so they didn't answer. So then I got like really tenacious about it. I was like, wait a minute. Like I need to find these people, right? So back then they didn't have batch leads and prop stream and like all
hmm
that stuff. Like you had to like hunt for people.
Right.
So I found the county assessor, found them, tracked down the owner, and she happened to be the administrator of the state. The people that lived there had actually passed away recently,
Mhm.
and so she met me out at the property,
Mhm.
and we signed a contract like there, like on the
On the
spot,
spot.
on the spot. And I
Wow.
did a creative deal. It was like this was back when like zero down was like the big popular thing because that's what I was learning.
Okay.
And so
Hmm.
I gave her $10 earnest money, and because I didn't have change, right? And so because I was learning how to like do the dollar down,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
like deals like back then.
Yeah.
See these kids they'll never know how it was. What do you mean $50,000 in earnest money deposit?
Right.
I
Right.
did it with
Right.
a dollar.
Dollar.
Yeah, so it's like I gave her 10. I didn't have any change.
Mhm.
So who I call? Like I had no money, right? I could not close on this deal. So I
Mhm.
called up my buddy that I just met at this other house, and I said, "Hey,
Mhm.
like I have this property. Are you interested in it?" So he came by, took a look at it, and he was like, "Yeah." Like I assigned the contract to him. All I
Mhm.
had to do was just it had like stuff that the people had left there. So we had a yard sale,
Cleaned
sold
it
that
out.
stuff
Yeah.
off. So that was an additional like stream of income. And
Hmm.
then like I had done my first deal. Then I was like, oh man, this is great. I'm gonna quit my job.
Hmm.
Like
Hmm.
I made $7,000. I was like, I was on top of the world.
Mm. Nice.
And then I get and buy
Wow.
the next deal,
Hmm.
right? Because I didn't have the
You don't
systems
have a
in
system.
place. It was just kind of like it was a one-off. I got lucky.
Hmm.
And so I was
Hmm.
like, oh man, this is great. Like I'm gonna be at this full-time investor and yada yada yada. And then the next
Hmm.
deal didn't come. And I was like, oh, I guess I'm gonna
Hmm.
can keep being a programmer. Like,
Hmm.
and so as I was like, I think a year or two like passed, and then I was like, man, like why am I going out here? And so I was doing that transition, right? That 4 or 5 transition. I was like, why am I going out
Hmm.
here and making these
Hmm.
these long holds, all this money? Why don't I be a
Hmm.
landlord? Unfortunately,
Hmm.
it was 2006, 2005 or
Hmm.
so. And so I was
Hmm.
buying up these rentals like during the time where um the values had gone up. It was just
Hmm.
before the bubble. And so I bought
Yep.
into all these
Yep.
all these rentals, and then the values dropped.
Man.
And then
Fell
so
off the cliff.
I sold off some, short sold some, like all kind of like different variations of it. And then after that, I was like, I swore off real estate. I was like, I'm never gonna do this again because I had such a like
Hmm.
traumatic experience with it. It's like I'm never gonna do this again.
Hmm. Hmm.
And so that was back in the early 2000s. And then so more recently, I've gotten back into real estate. Um, and I was in a
Hmm.
mastermind where we were learning how to build multifamily developments and single family
Hmm.
houses. And so with the way
Okay.
that the things are going, I've kind of pivoted to just buying existing assets.
Hmm.
So that's the
Okay.
long and short of my.
Short story.
Yeah. I mean, I can tell you about all the times I've been underneath in crawl spaces chasing dead possums and
Wow.
tenants and
Wow.
toilets and all the fun stuff in between.
Mm. Okay. Okay. Now, the the mindset shift, like you said, from that programmer to a real estate investor, and you didn't have that NLP background at that time,
No.
right? Because this was the early 2000s. So you came back around what, 2017, 2018, maybe even 2019. You came back into real
2019.
estate.
Uh
2019.
oh no, actually it was 20 no 2021 or so, 2022.
Yeah.
It was recent. It was relatively recent.
Okay. And the that's when you, during COVID, I know you quit your job, you went into real estate, and that was and from basically 2005, 6 till COVID, that's
Mhm.
when that long of a period passed before you got back into real estate?
I was stuck. Like,
Yeah.
you ever hear people say they're stuck in life? Like, I was stuck. Like, with respect to real estate, I was stuck.
Uh-huh.
That narrative was playing in the back of my mind. Remember last time you did that? You
Mhm.
screwed that up. Like you don't want to do that
Yeah.
no
Yeah.
more.
Yeah.
Like that's what it
I
looks
know
like.
that.
That's exactly what it looks like.
Mm-hmm.
Like all those years, I could have been like just racking up properties and just like, but I was like, I was there was fear. There was fear
Mm-hmm.
of doing it all over again.
Mm-hmm. The fear of failure.
Yep.
Mm.
Yep.
Wow. Man, you helping a lot of people with your story, bro.
Yeah, man. I mean, there's a lot of people out there that went through that era. There's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of like new investors right now that like they don't have a they're just not a knock, but just they don't have the experience of going through an economic downturn like that, and all they know
Mm-hmm.
is cheap money as far as interest
Mm-hmm.
rates and cheap home
Mm-hmm.
prices.
Mm-hmm.
But man, we were talking about sevens, 8% back then.
Yeah.
Um, and values were like they were up there. They were like
Mm-hmm.
skyrocketed. So
Mm-hmm.
the thing about that, and which is why I'm really excited about what's going on right now, is history
Mm-hmm.
repeats itself.
Okay.
And so when you're able to see the cycles,
Mm-hmm.
things aren't gonna keep going like they were. And we learned that like over the last couple of years, you know, when the hedge funds pulled out and stuff like that, it definitely signaled that things were changing in the market. And
Mm-hmm.
so I know people that have had contracts canceled, like hedge funds were like, keep our earnest money deposit. We're out of here
Mm-hmm.
because it didn't make any sense to continue along with the deal.
Right.
So now more than any time is very important to underwrite deals like
Mm-hmm.
very conservative,
Mm-hmm.
because things are shifting really quick, and depending on where like interest rates go and stuff like that, I tend to think that they're going to hold interest rates higher for a little bit longer. I don't foresee this whole like drop in interest rates.
Right.
So
I agree with that.
yeah, if interest rates hold longer, then that means that the values have to come down. Like something
Mm-hmm.
has to give. Like you either got to make money cheaper or
Mm-hmm.
you got to make the house cheaper. Like it can't be like
Right.
expensive money and expensive house when people
Right. They can't be.
the
Yeah.
wages aren't high enough to support that system.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people that are kind of like underwritten for, especially like with bird deals. I don't know if you've underwritten any bird deals recently.
No.
Those things are like just not penciling. Like so so now you're starting to see all these
Mm-hmm.
Facebook ads like, you know, is your bird deal not penciling right? Like try this strategy, right? And so people are trying to find ways around getting them to pencil, but
Mm-hmm.
it's really tight on margins like in the market right now.
Right. I'm seeing a lot of um, rap deals.
Yeah.
You know, everything is a rap. Like, but there's so much pitfalls to that. You know what I mean? You could have longer hold times. You know what I mean with a wrap,
Mm-hmm.
and you know the down payment, getting that qualified, like making sure that you dot your I's and cross your T's. You know, uh, getting a person that doesn't have a bank account. You know, they're undocumented or whatever their case may be, unbanked. You have to be very careful that you do it the right way. You know what I mean? So you don't get in no legal troubles down the road.
Yeah,
You know.
wraps can actually from an equity position. So if you get into a deal where you can leverage that equity,
Mm-hmm.
um, you know, you can use wraps to a very good um,
Mm-hmm.
you can basically use it as a bank to finance other deals. And so,
Okay.
so that's where like looking at real estate differently
Mm-hmm.
comes into play. Like if you look at real estate as in it's all about the dirt, right? It starts with the dirt, and someone says, "What's the
Mm-hmm.
highest and best use for this dirt?"
Mm-hmm.
It could be a school, it could be an apartment complex, it could be condominiums, it could be whatever the case may be. And then
Mm-hmm.
you're looking at what's the interest in in that dirt or that property afterwards, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you're looking at like how much is it encumbered, you know, through
Okay.
debt, and then the rest of
Mm-hmm.
that is your equity, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so
Mm-hmm.
if you can go, if you have like a chunk of equity, and instead of
Mm-hmm.
doing like lines of credit and stuff like that,
Mm-hmm.
you can do cross collateralization, right? So you can go buy another piece of property
Mm-hmm.
and have like a substitution of collateral and stuff like that within your agreement, and say, hey, like I no
Mm-hmm.
longer want to, I now want to say, hey, I want to collateralize this property with this property over here,
Mm-hmm. Okay.
right? And now you're
Mm-hmm.
able to like
Mm-hmm.
use these properties. You're starting to build a bank sort of where you can like start tapping
Mm-hmm.
into capital so that you can build your
Mm-hmm.
portfolio. And so with a
Mm-hmm.
wrap, you can still do that with wrap situations.
Mm-hmm.
So they're not not all
All right.
terrible. Just is not any of the tech things aren't like completely terrible. It's just a matter of like how you look at them. Some of them are going to be suited for this situation. Some of them are going to be suited for this situation. So
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
was coaching with a guy, and he like very well said, um, you it's ingredients. So you're baking a cake, and all you're doing like with real estate is like
Mm-hmm.
go buy, like you got to go buy, flour, you got to go buy this, you got to go buy this, you got to go buy this, and all you're doing is you're just putting everything
Mm-hmm.
together to make the cake. And so instead of looking at it and going, I want to go out and just buy houses, buy houses, buy houses, buy houses, it's like, what's the purpose of buying that particular house when you're building a portfolio?
Mm-hmm.
And some people may
Right.
be
Right.
looking at it and saying, well, I want to go out and buy a house for the cash flow. Like I need the immediate income. So they need
Mm-hmm.
active income. So they're going to flip it, for instance. Or some people are looking at
Okay.
like passive income. So it's just a matter of like
Mm-hmm.
where the house sits into your portfolio versus
Mm-hmm.
like going out and just buying every house that you can buy. That's just kind of
Mm-hmm.
like buying houses to buy houses.
And what's your um primary exit strategy right now? Buy and holding?
It again, yeah, it varies, right? So
Okay.
yeah, depending on like I'm getting ready to close on a property next week. Fingers
Mm-hmm.
crossed.
Fingers crossed.
It's been one of those like that's even when we got on, I was
Right.
like texting the agent like, like, um, so that one is it like I purchased it with the possibility of expansion,
Okay.
but then found out that that would be cost prohibitive to do because it's on a gravel
Mm-hmm.
road, and I would have the fortunate opportunity to pave the road, put gutters in, and all the offsite improvements,
Mm-hmm.
which could be hundreds of thousands of dollars to do. And so I was
Mm-hmm.
like, well, I'm not going to do that. And so I was thinking,
Mm-hmm.
well, maybe the neighbor will eventually want to build on their property, and then I can kind of like ride the wave, right? So I was
Right.
going
Right.
back
Right.
and forth on all these different exit strategies. So where I'm at right now is
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna fix it up and then flip it,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of see where the market is in a couple months, and where money is too. Because if money is cheap,
Mm-hmm.
and I can pull out my investment and just
Mm-hmm.
have it cash flow, then
Mm-hmm.
it would be a perfect burr opportunity that I can just hold on
Mm-hmm.
to it when the roads get improved, then I can build on it,
Okay.
and it'll be a like just like an awesome deal because it'll be so much more equity, so much more
Mm-hmm.
value that's of the property.
Mm-hmm.
But it's more of a longer play going that
Yeah.
route.
I was just thinking that this is a
Yeah,
long-term player. Yeah.
yeah. Or I could just like I could sell it and like
Fix and flip and say
let someone else
goodbye.
do it,
Yeah.
take the cash and go do
Mm-hmm.
another deal.
Right. And what states do you purchase your properties in?
Currently in the state of Washington.
Okay.
Yeah, I haven't.
Okay.
I've been dabbling in other places,
Mm-hmm.
but it's tough. It's tough. One because of my schedule. Two because
Mm-hmm.
like I want to be able to go to the property
Yeah.
if something happens. Like I haven't got things set up yet where I'm like, oh, like I'm gonna go out to like New York and you know
Right.
and yeah, I'll be there tomorrow. Like, kind of like so it's and I would say that that's also that's a limited belief that I have, where
Mm-hmm.
I believe that the houses that I own and manage, they have to kind of be in close proximity to me. And it's something that I've been
Right. Well.
working on going, no, I don't. Like I can have a property manager, I can, I can have, you know, superintendents and maintenance people and all that stuff that manages. I don't like have
Hmm.
to be there. So that's kind of what I'm embarking on now. It's just a matter of finding a market
Hmm.
that's going to meet my criteria.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
because
Right. Right. Okay.
really is about rents, right? If you're doing portfolio building, you got to find a
Hmm.
place that you can buy the house cheap, or
Hmm.
yeah, buy the house cheap, but also have rents that are going to exceed what you're paying out your debt service and your expenses.
Right. Right. True. True. And I came across, and I can't think of it's like a census website that does tell you about appreciation. And if I get that link, I'll put it in the
Okay.
description,
Yeah.
so people can kind of use that. And it's like color coded, so you can see what areas and what states are like really, really appreciating.
Hmm.
And you focus your attention on those cities.
Hmm.
Um, yeah. So I'll try to find that, and I'll stick it in the description.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, there's a
Yeah.
lot of different websites that what they do is they aggregate like Zillow and Redfin and all that stuff. And
Mhm.
they'll tell you what your cap rates are in an area, they'll tell you what your rents are, they'll tell you what your value appreciation is, what your population declination is, like all this different stuff that investors like need to know.
Need to know,
And
right?
they're some of the data points are free, other ones are they're like the premium ones are you have to pay for it. But it's like
Hmm.
20 bucks a month or so,
Hmm.
and it can save you thousands of dollars, if you
Hmm.
look into, for instance, um, a state that you look at a house and you're like, well, should I invest in this state?
Hmm.
And values are going down because they're overpopulated, and
Hmm.
the rents are low. Then it's like,
Hmm.
is that's kind of a risky move.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if you see that values are under, meaning that there's room to come up,
Hmm.
and rents are stable or they're low too, and that's kind of where I
Hmm.
would want to go into, is
Okay.
I can get it cheap and I'm gonna increase my income. But you also got to look at things like what's the local municipality like, or what's the not even really municipality, but like the state, it seems at this point, where there's
Hmm.
a lot of legislation that's going on as far as rent control, and so
Hmm.
you can't go more and this is what's catching a lot of people right now is
Hmm.
um, they've been saying, oh, I love my tenant, I'm going to keep him in there, or keep my rents low. And then the city came along or
Hmm.
the state came along and said, oh yeah, by the way, you're capped at 5% and you're
Yeah.
20% undervalued, under market,
Hmm.
but you
Hmm.
can't exceed more than 5%, or you get to pay for the relocation, like all this different stuff, right?
Wow.
And so I don't know if you noticed that you see people going, oh, well, so before the legislation passed, I'm going to raise my rents like 15%. And the tenants are like, what? Like, what do you mean?
What? I can't pay that. Right.
Extra
Right.
$1,000. So like,
Yeah. 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 Oh my goodness. That's crazy. That's
yeah, so
crazy.
yeah, landlords are trying to catch up right now to get ahead of it. But some people are like, some are clueless,
Hmm.
and then they're gonna find out that, oh crap, like I can't raise it more than 5%, and insurance rates are going up,
Hmm.
right? So expenses are getting more, and so then you
Hmm.
find this like situation where now they're lopsided. Oh,
Hmm.
not to be the bearer of bad news, but there's just
It's a lot that goes in,
lots
a
of
lot of
factors.
ingredients that go into that.
Yeah, it's
Right.
not just go buy a house and roll the dice. It's like
Right. Right.
you got to be aware of a lot of different factors that can directly
Right.
impact your pocketbook.
Yeah, yeah. And I think like one of the limiting beliefs that you've helped me to be aware of and to overcome is we focus a lot on purchase price. And if we personally have the funds, you know what I mean? But there's like so much more to it than those two things, those two factors. and that's some of the stuff that we learned in our community, whether it be the sub two community or the Gator method community. And just speaking with you, offline, that was very helpful, how you had me create the bucket and then say what my resources were. And then you added resources that I didn't even think of into the bucket. And I was
Yeah.
like, oh, wow, I
Yeah.
got a lot more resources than I thought.
Yeah.
you
Yeah. We
know?
all do.
Yeah.
I look
Yeah.
at it. So in this day and age, it's about cash flow. Like
Mm-hmm.
you want it to cash flow.
Mm-hmm.
And if I have great terms, I don't really care about the purchase price.
Right.
Like because the terms means that, for instance, like if I get a seller that's willing to carry back 90%, 100% of the loan at
Mm-hmm.
3% interest,
Mm-hmm.
you think I'm going to sit there and argue with like what the purchase price is? Like, like that's
You're like, where do I sign?
what sign me up, right?
Right.
Because I know that that's debt that's like I can that's transportable.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I'm looking for is like a lot of people are resistant to debt.
Mm-hmm.
But when you get really savvy, you're like, no, you want to go out and find good debt. Like right now, it's
Mm-hmm.
bad debt. There's a lot of bad debt,
In the
right?
system.
And
Mm-hmm.
so what happens like in the sub two community, why it's really advantageous is because that's a good debt,
Mm-hmm.
right? If someone called you up and said, hey man, I got this 13% mortgage
Mm-hmm.
and I need you to buy my house.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, would you jump all over it?
Nope.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
But if
Nope.
if they came along and say, "Hey, I got this 2% mortgage,"
Mm-hmm.
like all over it, you'd
Mm-hmm.
be all over it, right? And so the
Mm-hmm.
13% is bad debt.
Yeah.
But when you start getting into
Yeah.
like creative financing, like really like finding creative financing,
Mm-hmm.
you're looking for that you can because with these loans and so with conventional loans, you can't. They're not transferable. Like they're not.
Right.
They're not as mobile as if you're working directly with sellers.
Yeah. Right.
And so so if I can get really good terms with the seller, then yeah, how much do you want? Not like
Mm-hmm.
within reason. Like I'm not gonna
Not
say
like right.
here's
Right.
$1 million for your $50,000 house,
Like
but within reason, I'm like, yeah, like sign me up for that because that's gonna be debt that's over 30, 40, 50 years. Like who knows? So
right.
you can always
Right.
like you could convert that 13% mortgage into a 3% mortgage at some point if you have
Yep.
enough
Down the road.
of the ingredients over here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right.
No, it just
Now,
takes a different level of thinking with
thinking.
real estate.
Right. Right. Now, is there a rule of thumb in sub two that if you come across a deal, you want it to be able, at a minimum, cash flow as a long-term rental first? Is that like a rule of thumb? Because if it doesn't, and you try to do other exit strategies, you might fall on your face at some point, right?
Yep.
Is that, can you go into that a little bit?
Yeah, I typically look at properties from that same perspective because you're going to make the most with short-term rental,
Yeah, yeah,
and then next it's going to be midterm, and then
yeah,
next is going to be long-term. That's
yeah.
kind of rule of thumb. Like there's
Mhm.
other uses. Like earlier when I was saying like what's the highest and best use, like you're also
Mhm.
considering that. Like, is this the best use as a short-term rental?
Mhm.
Is this the best use as a midterm rental? Is this the best use as a long-term rental?
Mhm.
And so if you're not underwritten, especially in this market, if you're not underwritten for a long term
Mhm.
and you're starting to see all the headlines where they're saying, Airbnb is being banned in
Mhm.
like all these different states and cities and stuff like that, and you
Mhm.
could potentially lose your opportunity for short term. And
Mhm.
then you're like trying to put it on Craigslist and trying to like kind of like slide underneath the rug. And so like causing there's going to be a lot of friction there to your income, right?
Right. Right. Right.
And so if it's not underwritten for long-term rents, then you have to sell it.
Mhm.
And then someone else is going to look at it and go, well, it's not as valuable now because
Mhm.
you're either going to sell it to someone who wants to live in it,
Mm-hmm.
and so they're going to have a certain way of valuing it, and then you're going to
Mm-hmm.
look at it if it's an investor who's saying,
Mm-hmm.
well, this is an income producing property. Then they're going to look at the cap rate and say, well, no, like this is not, like the market is here and this cap rate is
Mm-hmm.
here, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if
Yeah.
cap's in area of 5 and this is down at a 3 or something like that, they're going to be like, I'm losing 2% on it,
Right.
by buying
Right.
this property. So that's gonna
Mm-hmm.
that's gonna dictate the values, because they're gonna say, well, why want at least a 7? If it goes up to a 7, then the value has come down too.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Well, that's good stuff, man. Um, Man, this has been awesome. Just sit down and just I love chopping it up with you. Um, you always bring it every time, even offline. You always bring it and just have me do that internal work. So I really thoroughly enjoy speaking with you all the time.
Yeah,
Man, you're
man.
such a blessing.
Thank you. I
Yeah,
appreciate
bro.
you.
Yeah. I know we got to go because somebody got a concert to get to, right?
I got 16 more ounces of water to drink, and figure out, and another workout.
And another workout. Oh, real quick. Was that 75 hard
75
or
hard.
75? Yeah, 75 hard. What
75
is
hard.
that?
It's so Andy Frisella came up with this challenge, and it's a
Hmm.
mental toughness challenge. And so what it includes
Okay.
is drinking a gallon of water. So this is my gallon of water that I'm almost done with, and it's
Hmm.
only 3 p.m. So I'm really excited about that. But I can tell you, with the TMI situation, I am in the bathroom all day,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so you have to read 10 pages of a self development book. You have to do
Hmm.
two workouts. One of them has to be outdoors, and then
Okay.
you have to follow a diet, any diet
Hmm.
plan, and you have to
Hmm.
take a progress selfie every single day. If you
Wow.
miss any of
Okay.
those, you start over at day one.
What? Oh my goodness.
Last time I did it, I got to
Yeah.
day 74 and almost wiped out.
Oh
You imagine?
goodness. This. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You would have been heartbroken if you had to start over.
It's life. It's I would
Yeah.
be like, eh.
Yeah.
I don't know that I would have started right away, but
Take some
I was
time
ready to be
to kind
done.
of mourn it.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
ready to be done. So I was just like, oh well, like, but I made it. I made it through the 75 days, and here I am on
Okay.
day 5. Day 5 now.
Yeah, I was gonna say you just started a new one, right?
Yeah, I'm on day 5 now. So
Yeah. Okay.
yeah, man.
All
So
right. Well, congrats. And
ready to
wish
roll and feeling
you ready
energetic
to do
and
your yeah, ready to
doing
do
the
your
PP
thing.
dance and
Yes. Do your salsa, bro. Do your salsa.
yes, yes.
Well, definitely tell the people where they can get a hold of you again and we'll end off after that.
Yeah, Roshun, Roshun.Jones at Instagram. That's on Instagram. Same for Facebook, and Roshun Jones on YouTube
Mm-hmm.
now. So
Yes, he's on YouTube
that's
now.
likely where this episode will show up as well. So
It will. So everybody blow him up on
yes,
YouTube.
this is me.
Reach out to him on Instagram.
Yeah.
Reach out to him on Facebook. Once again, my brother, thank you so much for
Oh yeah,
sharing.
and
And
RoshunJones.com as well.
oh, okay. Yes, the website. The
Yes.
website.
Yeah.
Yep, check out the website. Is very thorough. Um, like I said, support this brother. He can definitely help you overcome a lot of the issues
Yeah.
that you've learned over the years, and it's going to be truly beneficial to you so that you can become that better version of yourself. So again, I want to thank you, brother, for
My
everything
pleasure.
you've
Thank you.
done.
Thank you
Thank
for
you
the
for sharing
opportunity.
your experiences, and enjoy your concert. And we'll talk soon. Okay.
All right. Take care, man. Appreciate it.
God bless. Yes,
Thanks. God
sir.
bless.
Take care.